Have you ever stopped to think about who you really are? I mean, deep down, most of us, we've got this story we tell ourselves about our identity. But what if that whole story is a myth? Let's dig in.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you point blank. Who are you? Seriously, just for a second, what's the very first thought that pops into your head? Now, if you grew up in the West, chances are your answer sends something like this, right? You're an individual, a single mind, a consciousness kind of locked inside your own head, totally separate from everything and everyone else. That's pretty much the default setting for how we learn to think about ourselves. But what if that feeling of being this single, solitary unit, what if that's not the whole story? What if it's just one cultural idea and not some kind of universal truth? This is where things start to get really, really interesting. So to really get a handle on the alternative, we've got to first understand the story we've all been told. And it's a powerful one, let me tell you. It usually starts with a famous philosopher, all by himself in a room. That's right, we're talking about René Descartes. You know the story. He famously locks himself away, doubts literally everything he can think of, and comes up with just one single certainty: I think, therefore I am. His own mind, that became the bedrock of his entire existence. And it's a pretty compelling story of individual power and reason, isn't it? But here's the catch with that whole method. You've got this one guy, a 17th century Frenchman, thinking about his own mind, and boom, suddenly that very specific model gets declared the universal blueprint for every single human being, across all cultures for all time. Does that really sound like a solid foundation for understanding humanity? Well, that exact problem is what sparked this massive critique from the East, one that challenges this whole idea of the isolated self. So let's meet the guy who threw down the gauntlet, the Japanese philosopher Watsuji Tetsurō. He took one look at this Western model of the self and saw it for what it was. Not a universal truth, but a very specific, culturally bound, and honestly a deeply flawed starting point for thinking about ethics. Okay, this slide really breaks down the showdown here. On one side, you've got the Western self. It's all about the individual, and it claims to be the model for everyone. But Watsuji's critique, over on the other side, points out the obvious. This just privileges one European way of thinking, it totally ignores huge cultural differences, and, this is key, it creates a conflict between us and the natural world. And listen, Watsuji did not pull any punches. He said the Western subject looks more like an unreasonable despot, or even a delinquent child severed from its mother nature. Wow. I mean, that's a powerful image, right? It suggests this isolated self isn't some mature, rational ideal. It's actually kind of childish and totally disconnected. You can almost feel that playing out today, can't you? With all the talk of loneliness epidemics and our environmental crises, it's like we're all feeling that sense of being severed from our connections. So, okay, if the isolated self is a broken model, what's the alternative? Well, Watsuji says we need to rebuild our whole understanding of the self, and he uses this incredibly powerful Japanese concept to do it. And that concept is ningen. Now, this isn't just the Japanese word for human. It's a completely different way of seeing things. To be human, in this view, isn't to be a solitary mind. It's to exist in the connections, in the space between you and other people, you and the world around you. And what's so cool about this is that the entire philosophy, it's literally hidden right inside the word itself. Okay, so the first character is nin, or hito, and yeah, it means a person, a single individual. But, and this is so important, it also holds on to this sense of the plural, of humanity or mankind. So even the symbol for one already has the idea of many baked right into it. Now, the second character, Gen, or Ida, this is the real game changer. It means the space between. And if you look closely, you can see it's made of two parts: a gate, which suggests an open space, and the sun, which suggests time passing. So we're not just talking about a physical space, but a living, breathing, dynamic space of relationships unfolding over time. So you put those two together, and you get ningen. Being human isn't just about being a person, the nin. It's about existing in that active relational space between, the Ida. Your identity isn't some nugget hidden deep inside of you. It's woven into the connections you share with everyone and everything else. So you might be wondering, what makes this kind of relational self even possible? What's the philosophical operating system running in the background? Well, the answer comes from Mahayana Buddhism. And it's this concept of emptiness. Now, hold on, because this word is super tricky. It does not mean a void or that nothing exists. Not at all. What it really means is that nothing has a fixed, permanent, unchanging core. Everything is always in flux. And because nothing is set in stone, there's always space, there's always potential for new connections to be made. Okay, so let's be super clear about this. Emptiness is not nothingness. It is a state of constant change. It is the potential for new relationships. And on an ethical level, it's this incredible, compassionate act of emptying your own rigid ideas to make space for other people to just be themselves. The source we're looking at gives this perfect analogy. Think about what's happening right now. For you to really get what I'm saying, you have to kind of empty yourself of your own assumptions for a minute and just listen. But it works both ways. For me to communicate this to you, I have to empty myself of all the complicated jargon and try to speak in a way that actually connects. Real communication, real connection, it happens in that shared space, in that mutual act of making room for each other. That is the logic of emptiness in action. Okay, so when you start to see the self in this relational way, the implications are huge. It completely flips the script on how we even approach the whole idea of ethics. Watsuji basically lays out a two-step plan. First, we have to deconstruct. We have to take apart this myth of the isolated fixed self that we've inherited. And then, second, we reconstruct our sense of who we are. Not by looking inward in some lonely room, but through active, hands-on engagement with the world and the people in it. And the result of all this? You get what's called a decolonial ethics. Instead of trying to force one model of being human onto the entire world, we shift to actually studying the incredible variety of ways there are to be human. We move from imposing our ideas to simply observing and learning. Which, brings it all right back to you. After going through all this, the question isn't just who are you anymore, it's more of a choice about how you want to see yourself. Are you an island, self-contained and cut off? Or are you the network? Are you the connection? Are you the space between?